Well, the Rockies sure as heck aren't going to the playoffs this year, but they do happen to play a lot of games against teams that are. Is there a specific team that the Rockies hope to spoil their playoff hopes for? Does that mean anything to the young players that are playing, or is that just a storyline that we as the fans like to look at? We'll talk about that and a heck of a lot more coming up next on the DNVR Rockies podcast. What's up, everyone? Welcome in to the DNVR Rockies podcast presented by Bet365. Download the Bet365 app. Use code DNVR365. You can place a bet for $5 and get $150 back in bonus bets. Welcome, everyone. It is a happy Monday. Back to our usual schedule, and we get to talk a little bit about some baseball today. I'm happy to be with you. We do have a little bit of positive things to talk about. It's not a lot of positive things, but a little bit. Hence the jersey that Spencer is wearing. That there you go. Yeah, show it off to the people. There you go. Our king.
I am a Kyle Freeland guy.
He's a Kyle Freeland
We're
guy.
not even going to talk about the game Saturdays and Sundays. We're just going to talk about the game Friday night for an hour.
Yeah, pretty much. Just Kyle Freeland stuff. We're going to break it down pitch by pitch for the next hour.
Yes.
No, we have a good show today. I want to talk about some of this whole playing spoiler nonsense that keeps getting thrown out there. Because look, it's been the storyline for the last 6 years that the Rockies get to play spoiler, right? They're not going to the playoffs, so does this motivate the young guys? They get to play spoiler against some of these big teams. We talked to some of the players and coaches around the Rockies organization about that storyline specifically. So we'll get into that a little bit. And I also have some insider information on the relationship between Warren Schaeffer and Bill Schmidt and how that can play into the decision that is going to be made this offseason of whether or not the Rockies keep Warren Schaeffer around in 2026. So we've got that and a little bit more stuff to talk about, and I'm happy to get into it. Welcome to the show, man.
Thank you. It's good to be here on a Monday. We're back to our normal schedule, Monday, Friday.
I know, we're still waiting for that elusive 2 wins.
Yes, two wins away. We got one, though. We
did get one.
And it was actually good. Like, we're going to be, doing some stuff once they get to that 41st win. So it was good that we didn't have to try to do a watch along yesterday because I was busy with the Broncos tailgate, and then
it wouldn't have happened.
It wouldn't have happened straight up. I would have not been able to do it. So if the Rockies could selectively win these last 2 games, we would really appreciate it.
Yeah, I know.
And the Rockies, they may anyways. I know. And maybe how it works out.
The Rockies are about to play 4 games against the Dodgers. Then they go back to San Diego. They play 3 against the Padres. I didn't realize the Rockies are in a stretch of 13 games where they are playing divisional opponents that are all in line, or at least in the running for a playoff spot. You played the Giants, then you play the Padres, now you play the Dodgers, then Padres, and then you play the Marlins. You play the Giants to end the season. But the Rockies are having a chance to really mess things up for some of these teams. And so I was asked this question when I was at Coors Field the other day. If you had to choose which team's season to ruin their playoff hopes, who would it be? Giants, Padres, or Dodgers? And this kind of goes hand in hand with the conversation we had last week of who is our most hated NL West team. The Giants, I think, are high on a lot of people's list given the tension between the Giants and the Rockies this year. But the Dodgers are obviously a number one favorite. But if you look at the reality of what the Rockies would have to do against the Dodgers, the Padres, and the Giants would be the easiest to bounce out of the playoff because the Giants are probably going to be, if they're even still in the playoff, in a wild card running by the last series of the season. It's going to be tight. So theoretically, if the Rockies go and win the series against the Giants in the last series of the season, that could be enough to eliminate the Giants. The Padres and the Dodgers, I don't care if you sweep the Dodgers and sweep the Padres, which would be absolutely insane. You're probably not ruining their playoff chances. You might just make things more interesting for other teams. So let's say the Rockies go out and sweep the Dodgers over 4 games, which would be insane. If they went and swept the Dodgers over the next 4 games, you just basically, you don't eliminate the Dodgers. You're just propping up the Padres' chances to win the division.
Yeah, which I kind of like.
Nice.
That's the way I'm looking at this is I don't like the Padres. I don't like any team in our division. I don't even mildly like them, root for them. But if I were to say one thing that would be fun is the Rockies give a little bit of trouble to the Dodgers this next series and let the Padres win the NL West. I think that would be cool. That'd be a great story, because when we went to the end of the season and talked about the Dodgers and we knew how much money they were spending and they just kept getting better players and better players, we're like, how do they not win 130 games and win the division going away? And now we're sitting here on September the 8th and they have a 1-game lead on the Padres with, roughly 25 games ish left to play. Like so the Padres are right there. And to me, we're not spoiling any actual playoff hopes, but if the Dodgers don't win the division, then they end up having to play in the wild card round, and then they have more chances to lose. And I think that would be where my hopes would lie, is like, let's kill the Dodgers. Let's put them in a tough position going into the playoffs.
Well, I want to go even further than that. I mean, we talked about this, and you were hinting to this just a second ago, but we talked about this before the season started, when the Dodgers went out and signed $700 million of contracts. And everyone's sitting here saying, this is cheap, right? This isn't fair. The Dodgers are spending too much money. Other teams like the Rockies and the smaller market teams don't have a chance. Everyone was up in arms. And my answer to all of that was, well, we just kind of have to wait and see, because baseball, in the end, is the ultimate equalizer. If the Dodgers don't win a World Series, then that argument of it's not fair, or it's, the Dodgers are a super team and whatever, that argument goes right out the window, because it doesn't matter how much you spend. If you can't win a World Series, let alone win the division, it doesn't matter. It does not matter, especially if a team like the Brewers, who spend less money than the Rockies, are getting into the playoffs as the best team in baseball. So to me, it would at least silence a specific storyline, or at least give you an answer to a specific storyline of like this whole baseball is unfair narrative. Because if the Dodgers don't win the NL West division, even if they go on to make the playoffs through the wild card, which they would, that answers that question to me right off the bat.
Yeah, well, and now that you're saying that and I'm hearing that, I don't like this. I want the Dodgers to win the World Series again so we can complain that it is unfair. Because now
I hate that you just said that.
Well, now I'm getting scared of like when you put it.
What
in
are
that,
you saying?
Well, when you put it in that frame, they're just going to go spend more money and continue to make the deficit between the Rockies and them just even further out. And there's no chance of the salary cap. To me, we don't know for sure if there's going to be a salary cap or not, right? There's been talks about it, but to me, the more the Dodgers continue to win, if they were to win, let's say 3 straight World Series, it would maybe give, I almost call him Bud Selig. Who's the
Dave Roberts?
Who's the commissioner?
Oh, Rob Manfred.
Rob Manfred. Bud Selig was stuck in my head. I'm old, apparently. Rob Manfred may have more pushback of let's even this out somehow. But if the Dodgers don't win the World Series and a team like the Brewers does, he can sit up there and say, see, this is a great equation and it works all the time. And so that actually terrifies me a little bit more, to think of the Dodgers not winning the World Series. Do I want them to? No.
But see, here's the thing. I am of the mindset that I think no matter what happens, there's too much money involved to really make a difference. Because the Players Association and what that's going to lead to, if let's just say the Dodgers go and they win the World Series this year and next year, and then there's a lockout in 2027, it's going to lead towards that lockout, because then you're right. There's going to be more pressure on the Players Association and on Rob Manfred to install a salary cap and probably a salary floor. At least that's what a lot of owners are fighting for. So I just don't see that happening, because you have players making billion-dollar contracts almost. And there's no way a Players Association is going to say, you know what, fine, we'll instead of getting these $700 million contracts for our guys, we're going to go down to a $200 million contract that you see in the NFL and NBA that have salary caps associated with it. So I think when money's involved to that level, and again, this is a bigger conversation, and maybe we do a full show on this specifically, I just don't see there ever being a world in which we see a salary cap, even if that probably does help. The other part of it too is that, if you go back and you look at some of the other sports that do have salary caps, the NFL, the NBA, the NFL, we did this on one of our Denver sports podcast shows where we looked at and we broke it down. The NFL is one of the least equitable sports when it comes to winning championships, because you get dynasties like the Patriots that go and in the span of a decade win 8 Super Bowls. The Chiefs are in the Super Bowl every single year because they have Patrick Mahomes, whether they have a salary cap or not. Like Major League Baseball, even the teams that spend the most amount of money, like the Dodgers, like the Padres, like the Yankees, there's no guarantee that they are going to win a World Series. And so, yes, it does set them up to have an advantage when you can spend all of that kind of money, but it never guarantees you a World Series just because of the nature of the sport of baseball. So, like I said, it's a much bigger conversation, but personally, I just think setting the Dodgers down a notch into the wild card just makes that whole conversation a little bit more interesting from a dynamic standpoint.
Well, here's a fun little trivia question for you. Okay. Which team? So right now in the current playoffs, the top 9 salary caps. There's one team that is not in the playoffs of the top 9 total payroll in the MLB this year. What team is that?
Currently
the
going towards
eight
the
of
playoffs.
The top 9 salaries are all in playoffs positions, whether it be a wild card or leading a division.
Is it not the Brewers?
No. No, that's top 9 in payroll, but not in the playoffs.
Oh, but not in the playoffs.
Yeah.
Gotcha. That's a great question. I don't know, actually.
It's the Atlanta Braves.
The Braves. Okay,
Atlanta Braves
that
are
makes
the
sense.
8th overall total payroll.
God, I
this
forget
year.
about the Braves.
And they are the only team: Dodgers playoffs, Mets playoffs, Philly playoffs, Toronto playoffs, Yankees playoffs, Cubs playoffs, Houston playoffs, and then San Diego's at 9.
Where do the Mariners sit in that whole
The Mariners are at
because the Mariners
12th.
are also in the playoff race.
12th overall, and then the only other team like the Brewers, as we talked about, 19th overall in payroll and are dominating the MLB right now. And then Arizona's right there at 72 and 72, an outside shot. And then down there at the bottom, 25th in payroll and 27th, you have Cleveland and Tampa Bay, who are both basically 500 ball clubs.
Yeah.
So there's it's not every year, and whoever ends up actually winning the World Series will make sense, but it's a pretty direct correlation here in the MLB of
it gives
8
you
of
an
the
advantage.
top 9 teams are in the playoffs that have their total payroll.
Yeah, it gives you definitely an advantage as you're going through all of that to kind of sit there and say, hey, we're spending more money. You would think that would be able to get you to a championship spot, but we'll see if that's the case. We'll see if that ends up being the case, and we'll see if the Rockies can throw a little wrinkle into some of those plans. But I want to talk a little bit, about some of the underrated parts of this season, some of the storylines that have kind of flown under the radar before we hit this first break. And then after the break, we'll talk a little bit about Kyle Freeland and this Warren Schaeffer and Bill Schmidt situation. But we got to at least give a quick shout out to Hunter Goodman, because Hunter Goodman had his 29th home run. He's going to get over 30 home runs this year. Dude has been playing absolutely lights out baseball. I mean, I know I saw in the chat, I don't remember who it was that asked this question, but someone was asking in the chat, hey, what are the chances that Hunter Goodman gets some MVP votes, anything like that? His defense isn't good enough to get him to that spot, and also his offense isn't at the level of like a Cal Raleigh or something like that, but he's playing clearly all-star level baseball. He hit his 29th home run. Like, I get that this is a Rockies team that is not good. They're not going to the playoffs, but Hunter Goodman would be having a career year on even a playoff team. And that's something we have to at least acknowledge.
100%. And we've talked all season about one of my bits is the Rockies have a bunch of really good role players. Whereas if you put any of the Rockies right now on another team, they're probably on the 25-man roster, most of them, but they're not starting every day. They're, the Ryan Ritters, and maybe you can argue for Tovar or Doyle, but guys like that, like most likely they're going to fit into a Brewers or a Cubs roster and just kind of be a piece. They're not a focal point. Hunter Goodman would be a focal point for basically any other team other than the Dodgers with Will Smith and the Mariners with Cal Raleigh. Yeah. Any of those other,
and you'd still find a way to get his bat in the lineup.
100%. Like 28 MLB teams would start Hunter Goodman 100 plus games at catcher and have his bat in the lineup for another 45 or 50 and give him a few days off here.
And if you didn't need him at catcher, you'd put him in the outfield. You would find a place for Hunter Goodman. Yeah. Like I said, we're not going to spend a ton of time on it, but it shocks me sometimes how good of a season he's having. I mean, he's been consistent. He hasn't gone on a slump, at least a big league slump, at all this entire season. He's been completely consistent. His power is there. And I get it. He's not hitting 53 home runs like Cal Raleigh is, but the dude is having one of the best seasons, obviously the best season offensively for a catcher in Rockies history, but in all of baseball. So shout out to Hunter Goodman for flying under the radar this year. And I wish this was a good season where you could look back and be like, Charlie Blackmon had some career years on playoff Rockies. Nolan Arenado obviously, had a hell of a season when the Rockies were going to the postseason in 2017, 2018. If this was a playoff team, Hunter Goodman would be the talk of Major League Baseball, a talk of Major League Baseball. He would be up there with all the other all-stars who are getting as much love as, they should be getting on those playoff teams.
100%. And another guy, I'll throw another under the radar guy in there for you, is Jordan. So I heard this on the radio when I was listening to the game the other day. Jordan Beck stole his 15th base, so he's got an outside shot at being a 2020 guy.
Okay.
Which is kind of insane to think about,
it is.
considering he spent 2 to 3 weeks in AAA and we didn't know if we were going to see him again.
Yeah, and also he hadn't hit a home run going into this last home run that he hit just a couple days ago. He hadn't hit a home run since August 4th or August 3rd. Something like that. It was like the first week of August. I mean, over a month. I actually asked Schaeffer about that in this post game, and Schaeffer was like, I had no idea. I mean, you talk about flying under the radar. Yeah, you're right. He's on pace to get close to a 2020 season, and he went over a month without hitting a single home run.
Yeah, and went a month with hitting multiple home runs in AAA.
Yeah. And also hit like 4 home runs in 2 games when he first got back up to the big leagues. So good for Jordan Beck. The last guy I'd throw on that list as well, Jimmy Herget. Jimmy Herget, like, you talk about circle of trust, man. Jimmy Herget is a 2.5 ERA. His Coors Field numbers are great. I mean, Jake Bird looked great at the beginning of the season. He kind of fell off towards the All-Star break. Jimmy Herget has just been consistent all year round, and it's not flashy. He's a bullpen guy, whatever. He's been incredible. So Hunter Goodman, Jimmy Herget, and we'll throw Jordan Beck on that list. Under the radar guys having a hell of a season on a very bad team.
Herget's been absurd. Like
really
he
good.
Comes in and they always put him in the. He has the former Jake Bird role where sometimes he may pitch in the 5th, sometimes he may pitch in the 8th, but he always comes in when you're like, oh God, it's the bases are loaded, no outs, and he'll allow a run here and there, but he somehow gets out. Like, he doesn't throw that hard. He has pretty good stuff. He has a really bad mustache, by the way. His look is
his stirrups are tough too, man.
He looks like a sewer rat. Yeah. Like, he's just straight up. He probably weighs 180 pounds, 170 pounds, soaking wet. Comes in there, fucking whips it from the side. Doesn't look like
the human glitch,
at
man.
all.
Yeah.
But he's been just incredible. And don't get me wrong. I wish we would have traded a lot more bullpen pieces or a lot more pieces at the deadline and just kind of reset even more than we already did. Yes. But I was low-key happy we kept him. And he's been a bright spot to watch when you do have a lead or two here or there that he's coming in and he's going to be shut down.
If he keeps that going, though, he could be a good trade piece next year around the deadline if he keeps up the work he is right now. But got to take a first break of the show. After the break, like I said, got some information from some people around the organization about the relationship between Bill Schmidt and Warren Schaeffer. You're going to want to hear this. We'll talk about that coming up after the break. Want to give some love to our friends right now over at Bet365, because at Bet365, we don't do ordinary, and the season's wrapping up. We got a couple weeks left of Major League Baseball for the Colorado Rockies, at least, and this whole year we've been doing our best to make the most with the Rockies. For a while it was pretty easy with our anti-Rockies parlays because the Rockies were playing pretty poor levels of baseball, but then they got a little bit better and mix things up a little bit. But if you use that code DNVR365 when you sign up, you can choose between either a bet and get offer or a first bet safety net offer. And what do we got for tonight against the Dodgers?
Well, I'm kind of annoyed because the ESPN app in general is not giving me my normal numbers because they don't have Shohei Ohtani scheduled.
It's Glass now pitching, by the way. I saw Lefty in the chat talk about Shohei. It's Tyler Glass now pitching.
Okay,
tonight.
that makes sense. All right. Well, what we're gonna do then? We're gonna go to the player props here on the Bet365 app. We're going to take Shohei Ohtani to hit a home run at plus 150 because Chase Dollander, while he could have a good start tonight, I don't
we are going to talk
doubt
about
that he might have a good start. He's probably going to give up a home run or two because he always does. And we're going to get a Shohei Ohtani home run at plus 150. And then really, all they have right now up are a lot of Dodgers. So I'm going to hit Andy Pages at 2+ total bases, and then Mookie Betts at 2+ total bases. Parlay those three together. You're also getting a boost at plus 30% boost from Bet365, I should say. So that's plus 1,000. You're getting a 30% boost. That's going to be plus 1,300. So we're looking Shohei home run, Mookie Betts 2+ total bases, and Andy Paez 2+ total bases. So it could be 2 singles, could be 1 double, could be a home run. I think that's a pretty safe one. Chase, that could still happen, and Chase Dollander could still have a good night.
Yeah,
but those 3 things could happen.
I love it. We'll use that code DNVR365 when you sign up and see why it's never ordinary. At Bet365, must be 21 or older and physically located in Colorado. Please gamble responsibly. If you or someone you know has a gambling problem and wants help, call or text 1-800-GAMBLER. Also want to give some love to our friends over at Coors Light, because Coors Light is the official light beer of DNVR and of the Colorado Rockies. And I absolutely love, we talk all the time about, having a Coors Light at Coors Field. Obviously, those go hand in hand, but Coors goes beyond just the ballpark. And, whether you're enjoying some football at home or at a sports bar, maybe you're hanging out downstairs at the DNVR bar watching the Broncos get the dub over the weekend, Coors Light goes well in any environment like that. So, there's never a bad time to crack open a nice, cold, refreshing beer and embrace that chill mindset, because it is a good time of year to chill out a little bit, to relax, to just enjoy some nice Coors Light. So make the most out of the times you choose to chill. Choose Coors Light. Get Coors Light delivered straight to your door with Instant Cart by going to CoorsLight.com/DNVR. Celebrate responsibly. Coors Brewing Company in Golden, Colorado.
I had a Coors Light this weekend in Boulder at the Buffs tailgate.
Love
I had
it.
a Coors Light Friday night at Coors Field.
Just one? Maybe a couple.
Maybe a couple.
Maybe
I had
mix
at
in a
least
few.
one.
Okay. Yeah.
1+.
At minimum.
And then I also had a Coors Light yesterday at Empower Field for the Broncos game. So I had a weekend of Coors Lights in all the best places.
It's almost a golden sombrero of Coors Lights,
right?
man.
I
That's
know.
pretty
I
good.
need to where could I go
Trifecta.
today? Dick's Sporting Goods Park, maybe?
Yeah.
If Ball Arena, if the Nuggets
Lefty
are
would
playing
like
or
that.
Avs are playing, I could have 4 straight days of Coors Lights in 4
Should that be the 999 challenge type of thing, like where you have a Coors Light at every single sporting event? If you can hit all 4 or 5 of them, there's got to be there's a couple days out of the year where you see the overlap. Usually it's hard with football because hockey and basketball haven't started yet.
Well, and it's hard with the team we cover, because if there was playoff baseball, you could get those days in easily. Like I think it's the first week of October.
Oh, yeah.
There's all 4 sports in a day. I look at my score app and it's just all 4.
It's overwhelming,
Yeah,
actually.
that's
to me a
elite.
little bit. It is elite. Okay, I had a conversation with a couple people, couple media members over the weekend who spend a lot of time talking to people within the organization, and we were talking about the relationship between Warren Schaeffer and Bill Schmidt, and what our expectations were for this offseason. Because obviously the season is long gone, right? We're just hoping to get to 42 wins and then we'll sail off into the sunset at that. But the offseason is much more important, because we're trying to figure out, what does the GM situation look like? Is there a new manager? What does Warren Schaeffer's role in that look like? So I was kind of asking around about that. And you guys who watch this show a lot know that I am of the mindset that if Bill Schmidt keeps his job, which I don't think he will, but if he keeps his job, that kind of solidifies Warren Schaeffer as the manager in 2026. And if Bill Schmidt gets fired or forced to retire or whatever that looks like, if he's no longer the GM, then the new GM might come in and want to bring in a new manager, because a lot of times that's what happens. That was kind of my mindset going into it. But after having some conversations with people within the organizational context, I don't know if that's actually the way it's going to go. Now, there are people within the organization that think Warren Schaeffer has done a good job. And I think, while I don't think it's impossible for him to think that he would have the job in 2026, the more I've talked to people, the more I am doubting Warren Schaeffer getting to keep this job and get into the official manager's role. And one of the situations that came up that I thought was really interesting was the Drew Romo situation. So we all know Drew Romo got called up. We actually did a show kind of talking about that. Drew Romo got called up, and we were sitting there kind of thinking to ourselves, why do the Rockies have 3 catchers? Well, apparently Warren Schaeffer was asking the same question, because he was not allegedly told that the Rockies would be calling up Drew Romo. Now, to my understanding, that usually is a conversation that's had between the manager, the GM. Yes, the GM usually makes the ultimate decision, but that's a conversation that's had between, that group of people. And then they say, hey, yeah, here's how we're planning our game plan over this final month of the season. Here's who we'd like to see. And the GM says, here's all what the scouts are saying. And you come up with a plan of how you approach that. I've been told that there's a little bit of a disconnect between Schaeffer and Bill Schmidt that leads me to believe that the job isn't guaranteed to Schaeffer if Bill Schmidt keeps his job. Now, again, I still don't think that Bill Schmidt is going to keep his job. I do think the Rockies are going to move on, or they better move on from Bill Schmidt in this offseason. But it sounds to me like the organization is not telling Schaeffer, they're not including Schaeffer in the decisions that are made. And if you look back at last season and the years before that, Bud Black was very much involved in all of those decisions. He is the official manager. And so maybe it's the interim title. Maybe it's just because, hey, you're not the official manager yet, so we're not going to include you in those kind of things. But I just found that kind of interesting that it seemed to me through those conversations like Bill Schmidt does not have the organizational trust in Warren Schaeffer beyond just, hey, you're the interim right now, and so we're going to let you go out and manage this team. But I don't know if he's going to trust him beyond that. Yeah, it was interesting to hear some of those things.
It's very interesting because I thought, just much like you said at the beginning of the segment, I thought for sure if somehow Bill Schmidt keeps his job, Warren Schaeffer is probably just the guy they hire, because they already had to essentially fire one manager and they let Bud Black go, and he was the logical, the Clint Hurdle cloud is kind of over the whole organization, not in a bad way. We love Clint, but Clint being there, just like, oh, maybe we just go back to get some nostalgia and go back to Clint Hurdle. So I don't think that helps Schaeffer, and I do think if there's a new GM, I think it's a full clear out. Most likely, which is sad because I like Warren Schaeffer, and we've talked about some of his lineup decisions, and we'll talk about Friday and that decision, and he kind of owned it, which makes me feel a little better about it afterwards. But overall, even though I do have the purple glasses on all the time, I really, truly believe that this team has done a relative 180 since Bud Black got fired, and maybe some of that's just Bud Black not being there. Some of the lineups have been better. We had an elite lineup on Friday night, guys back and Warming Bernabell being in it. Now he's healthy again. But I truly, truly believe that the team has, whether or not they've won games, they've played harder. They've looked more competent under Warren Schaeffer. Mm-hmm. And I'm sure we talked about the splits a month or two ago, and it was like under Black and under Schaeffer, X amount of games. I'm sure we could, pull those splits up again. And it's not good, but they're definitely better.
But it's still the same pieces relatively.
Right. And let's be honest here, I'll go back to the kitchen analogy. If you don't have the ingredients, you can't make a really good, jambalaya.
Yeah, you're not making a Michelin star, dinner.
Yeah, exactly. With
a bunch of crap.
Exactly. And not that I believe that Warren Schaeffer has gotten just strictly out of the talent that he has. I believe he's gotten 80 to 90% of the, he squeezed that lemon 80 to 90% of what he has. Like, he could always be better. I'm not going to sit here and say...
To a fault almost, in my opinion.
Right,
where I'm like, come on, man,
Right.
And get out of your own way.
Right. And I'm not going to sit here and say that he's, Mike Schilt or any of these other managers that are going to manage in the league for 30 plus years. But you have an interesting connection of him being a first-time guy. Most of the players are rookies or you've got very few vets on this team, so they're all kind of growing together, and I like that. But I think no matter what, there's going to probably be wholesale changes, and Warren will be on the chopping block. And I do like the guy. I like him as a person. I think he's grown as a manager. I know when we talked to him, when we were doing media together, we were talking to him and kind of heard that like he wants to do more media because he wants to get better at it.
Yeah.
Like he's literally trying to make himself better than just being a manager. He's trying to be better with the media and better answering questions. But there's a lot of these times too where whether or not other managers know it, like when you talked about the Jordan Beck scenario and he's like, oh, I had no idea. You probably have a fucking idea. If you're left.
Do you mean Drew Romo?
Or no, when you said Jordan Beck, he hadn't hit a home run in
a month.
Yeah. Just things like that where you're like, how do you have no idea? Like, even if you don't say that.
Yeah.
Like, you can't say that because you're basically telling on yourself. But then the Drew Romo situation is just another frustrating thing because you see Warren trying as hard as he can to put these lineups together, and it's a bunch of guys that they're all question marks. We talked about it last pod, and we had a bunch of comments. The whole team is question marks. He's trying to put it together. He's trying to win games. He's trying to look more competent first and then win games later. And then they send Romo up, and you're like, what are we doing here?
Yeah,
like,
we all were thinking the same thing, and it sounds like he was in that same boat.
Especially on now it's a little bit of a flash in the pan because he's been up most of the year, had quite a few at bats, but literally Braxton Fulford has like 3 games where he looks like Will Smith or Hunter Goodman, and then you call up another catcher right after that, you got to be thinking, what's the point?
Why? Yeah. Why do that? I mean, you've got a roster spot. You could bring up another bullpen guy. You could bring up, you could bring up a sixth rotational guy. I mean, and you bring up a third catcher who's going to sit the bench. We kind of asked Schaeffer too, hey, do you have any plans to play Romo? And he's like, not if I don't have to. I mean, if I need to bring in a second catcher or someone, if someone gets ejected or injured or whatever, he's like, sure, but they don't have any plans to play Romo. So Romo's just sitting there. He's getting some practice. I was watching Drew Romo, and I texted you guys this. They were doing catcher drills and they were doing throwdown drills. I'm so bummed that Romo hasn't turned out to be the guy that we thought, because defensively, aside from his little awkward throwdown to the pitcher, his arm throwing down to second and third is elite. Like we were timing him, his pop time and stuff. I mean, he's like 1.8, he's in the low 1.8s. I mean, he like, you watch him and Hunter Goodman, and this is not a knock on Hunter Goodman. Goodman's not a catcher by trade. He's he's learning to be a catcher, but that's not his full-time position that he's spent his entire life playing. But you watch Hunter Goodman do throwdowns, and then you watch Drew Romo do throwdowns, and you're like, that's a catcher. Like, Drew Romo is a catcher, and you see that, and you're like, that's going to throw some guys out. But again, his bat isn't there. You've got a great catcher and you've got a great backup catcher right now. So why bring him up? So this is an ongoing conversation, because we're going to keep talking about this all off season until we start getting some tangible results on, we have a new GM or we don't, or we have a new manager or we don't. These are all big question marks that we're going to enter into this off season asking. But this information plays into it, because if the Rockies aren't trusting Warren Schaeffer with the long-term planning aspect of this, then, at least from our perspective, then I would assume from that optics point that means they haven't decided whether or not he's going to stick around in 2026. And so, stuff to think about, food for thought for sure. But I definitely think that whole situation is going to kind of spice up a little bit. I do want to talk about Walker Monfort in a second. We got to take our second break of the show. After the break, though, I also got some interesting information about Walker. Nothing groundbreaking, but I want to have a conversation about his role within the Rockies, because I think he's going to have a little more say in some things than what we were expecting. And I want to break that down for you guys when we come back from this next break. I want to give some love right now to our friends over at Toyota. Toyota is the official vehicle of DNVR and of the Colorado Rockies, and I absolutely love Toyotas. I've had Toyotas ever since I could drive. Even before I could drive, I learned to drive on a Toyota. Toyotas, you cannot go wrong. And as we get closer and closer to fall, snow's back up in the mountains a little bit. I know we've gotten a couple dustings up there. You got to make sure you have a vehicle that can handle what the roads of Colorado will throw at you. And Toyota has so many great options that will last you a lifetime. And I'm not exaggerating. I mean, my Toyota has 250,000 miles. It's why I'm in the process of getting a new Toyota. And I mean, you just cannot go wrong. They've got 4Runners, RAV4s. They've got the Tundra. You've got the Highlander, which is the car that I've had for the last 7+ years. They have so many different makes and models that can handle all the different types of terrains that you are going to see here in Colorado. So don't go into winter unprepared. Make sure you get a new Toyota. You can visit your Front Range Toyota stores at a location near you. AutoNation Toyota, Arapahoe and Centennial, Corwin Toyota in Boulder, Groove Toyota in Littleton, Mountain States Toyota in Denver, Stevenson's Toyota East in Aurora, and Stevenson Toyota West in Lakewood. Toyota is the official vehicle of DNVR.
I will say I'm getting a little spoiled driving. I have a 2024 Tundra, like the car.
Love it.
Love the
It's a
truck.
beast.
The 2025 Tundra that I'm driving for DNVR is even more of a beast. And I'm like, do I trade this?
Yeah. Do I upgrade?
I'm like,
Is it like a new phone?
It's
get
got
the next best thing.
massive screen. It sounds sick. It's definitely faster than my Tundra. Like, it sounds like
tough, man.
Sounds like a motorcycle almost. It's elite. And driving that around has been really fun. And now I'm like in a pickle of just bought a new house. I'm like, should I really buy another?
Decisions.
Yeah, should I really get another new Toyota? Or
You
not?
can't go wrong. You can't go wrong with a Toyota. But I want to give a shout out to our friends right now over at Game Time. Game Time is the app that makes getting tickets easier and more affordable than ever. And right now, with Major League Baseball season wrapping up, you gotta go get to a couple more games. Enjoy this season while it lasts, and or whatever's left of it, right? And the Game Time app makes getting tickets easier and more affordable than ever. And there's some good games around the corner. There's only one more homestand for the Rockies. So if you were going to go check out Coors Field one last time, wrap up, soak up all that nostalgia of Coors Field before summer is finally gone. And truly, I think when baseball season's done, summer's over, right? So use the Game Time app. They've got incredible deals there. They've got great features. Their customer service is top notch. They've got Game Time ticket coverage. Your tickets are covered with their Game Time coverage. It's incredible stuff. And so use that Game Time app. Take the guesswork out of buying MLB tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app. Create an account. Use code DNVR for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account. Redeem code DNVR for $20 off. Tap ticket. Go. Download the Game Time app today.
Right now, there is a Game Time deal. Angels at Rockies. We will be there Friday night. Friday Rooftop Club. Final Friday Rooftop Club of the season. Zone deal on Game Time right now for $24 a ticket in the rooftop. Fireworks night. So it's going to be a late Friday night rooftop club because we're going to have some fireworks. So make sure you come join us. We will have a great time on the rooftop on Friday night on the 19th, last Friday night game of the season. I'm also on the Game Time app because my son is obsessed, and I'm going to try to take him to at least 2 games in the final homestand because every morning he wakes up. I came home this morning. I'm going on a little rant here, but my dog is sleeping with him now and wakes him up way too early. And so we're done with this dog experiment because my son was up at 5. I'm at the gym this morning. I get an alert about his
Dog's
crib.
going back to the crib.
Yeah, he's up at 5:30, and I get home from the gym about 6:15. What is my son watching? Just sitting on the couch staring at baseball. My wife just put baseball on.
Love it.
Wakes
Oh
up
my
first
gosh,
thing,
I love
Rockies. I'm like, dude, the Rockies don't play. And now he's finally figured out Rockies at night. I'm like, dude, they don't play at 7 a.m. You can't watch it at 7 a.m., bro. Like, it's unbelievable.
Sawyer, come on, man.
Felix, come see us on the rooftop. You probably have seats to that game, but come hang out on the rooftop before the game.
Yeah, that'll be fun. I know, last rooftop club of the season. Got to talk about Walker Monfort because I was in the conversations that I was having about Bill Schmidt and Warren Schaeffer. Walker Monfort's name got brought up a couple times. And, I had said one of my biggest questions right now is how much involvement is Walker going to have? Because we know he's just going to take over Greg Fiesel's job as president of, he's the corporate VP, I believe, if I remember correctly. Don't quote me on that. But we all saw the big press release and he's taking a step up. And obviously his last name brings up huge question marks because he's a Monfort, right? And this team, this organization has a history of being insular, of not hiring without or outside of the organization, of just hiring from within. But at the same time, everyone that I've talked to, even people who have been very critical of the Rockies organizationally, have said, hey, Walker's different. Walker does things the right way. Walker's got a good head on his shoulders. He just kind of needs to get outside the shadow of his dad, and we'll be able to see that. So I'm withholding judgment just because I don't know. We have no idea what he's going to be. But my big question before we can even go any further into that is how much of a say is he actually going to have? Is he in these organizational discussions, or is he just doing corporate stuff? And I think as of now, he's just doing corporate stuff. But from the conversations I've had, it sounds to me like Walker Monfort is going to be very involved in organizational decisions from a player perspective, from an organizational perspective, not just a corporate perspective. So what does that mean for the Colorado Rockies? Well, again, this has not been confirmed yet, but it sounds to us like we're going to actually get to have a conversation with Walker sometime after the season ends to ask him about, what are your plans? What are your expectations? And again, from the conversations I've had, it feels to me, just from the vibe that I've gotten, again, none of this has been confirmed, but just the vibe that I've gotten in the conversations that I've had, that the Rockies are kind of trying to push more away from Dick Monfort being the sole decision maker, because we know, Dick Monfort makes the big decisions. He makes the Chris Bryant decisions. He makes the big free agent decisions. He makes the GM decisions, and giving that off to Walker Monfort. So what does that mean for the Colorado Rockies? Well, I don't know. We need to talk to Walker Monfort, but again, it sounds like the Rockies might be making Walker available to discuss that very thing. So that leads me to believe that Walker Monfort might be a decision maker. So I don't know how I feel about that. Like I said, I'm going to withhold judgment because I have no idea. Yes, his last name brings up a lot of anxiety when it comes to these kind of things, but
I have a petition.
Yeah. Okay.
Let's call him, we only call him Walker Fonmert. We don't call him Walker Monfort.
Okay. Can we just call him Walker?
Well, let's call him Walker. He's just Walker. We don't know what his last name is. We're going to reset. We're going to hope, because you can sit there like some people, like somebody in our chat the other day, we can sit here and cry that they're going to sell the team and hope that it happens. Yes, we all hope that happens. But the reality of the situation, Christian said it until he's blue in the face multiple times, not going to happen. So what we have to do as Rockies fans, if you want to continue to follow the team and continue to hope that they're going to be good in the next 2 to 3 years and they have a good young core and they're building something, you have to hope that he's different and you have to give him a chance to be different. Or else if you don't do that, you're just going to, you can make your own happiness in this world. And I'm going to choose to make my own happiness and not refer to him as a Monfort. He's just Walker, Texas Ranger, Walker, Colorado Rocky, whatever we want to call him. And
Walker TBD.
And we just have to go forward with that mindset. Because if we want to call him a Monfort all the time, like which he is, you just have to, you're just going to be set up for failure.
Yeah.
So we have to change what we think about him. And maybe he is terrible. Maybe he is great. We don't know. But
then we'll add his last name back into it.
Exactly. But for right now, he's Walker, and that's all we're going to call him on the show is Walker.
Yeah, I'm just curious to learn more, right? I'm going into this open-minded. Yes, there are prior anxieties that we all carry into this because of the baggage that comes with that last name. But I'm going to try to go into this open-minded and just learn more. I have more questions than I have answers right now. So we'll see. But I mean, the truth is, Dick Monfort's 71 years old, and he told, who was it? Who's that Denver Gazette writer that
Woody Page?
No, the other one that gets people all riled up. Mark
Kisla?
Kisla, thank you, Kisla. He told Kisla before the season started, hey, talk to me again in the offseason and we'll see, kind of jokingly about, what his involvement in the Rockies was going to be moving forward. Well, the offseason's right around the corner, and this was the worst season almost in the history of baseball for Dick Monfort, and he has become, if he wasn't already, the laughingstock of Major League Baseball. I mean, his name's getting dragged through the dirt, not just by us, but by everyone across the scope of Major League Baseball. So my guess would be that he is going to start wanting to distance himself from the organization, at least from a brand standpoint. And I think his son is going to be kind of the guy who steps in. So we'll see. I'm hoping to talk to Walker and get more information on that. But yeah, that kind of that's just some interesting stuff. And I agree with you, Dingers Burner, in the chat. I don't think anyone working for the Rockies knows what's going on, except for Dick Monfort. I mean, yes, he's the one who has the final say in all of this. But also, I mean, people hear things. People have conversations with conversations within conversations within conversations. And so, although yes, Dick Monfort could shock us all and make a decision, it ultimately goes on his shoulders. There are still things to keep your ear out for and keep an eye out for and see what happens. And I do know a lot of people like to put the blame on the Nolan Arenado trade or the Chris Bryant signing, or not the Nolan Arenado trade, but the Chris Bryant signing on just Dick Monfort. But I've heard plenty of people also say, hey, yeah, it was Dick Monfort, of course, but it was also Bill Schmidt. Like, Bill Schmidt is the GM. He should have been able to warn Dick Monfort that, hey, that guy, that's not a good move. We shouldn't be putting $250 million into this guy. So there's layers to all of this kind of stuff. And the truth still remains. Rockies need to really shake things up this offseason, and by God, I hope they do.
Yeah, when you're hanging out with your friends all the time and people and you start working with people that you're comfortable with, you start letting them get away with things more and more and more. And I've seen that, just in my own personal life, like when I'm working with somebody and then I become friends, I'm like, oh, I'll let that slide. And that's what it feels like a lot of the Rockies front office is you can't argue with a 40 and 103 record. That's a fact. But there's so much comfortability in there that, Walker's grown up in this, and obviously he has that same comfortability, but hopefully a different perspective and mindset. And hopefully like this is like not necessarily a sell. I mean, sell the team would be great, but hopefully this whole situation these last 3 years and all the media and all the national conversations that the team has gotten for being the worst team ever, and hopefully that's not going to be the case here in a couple weeks, has kind of worn on Dick Monfort to the point where he's like, it would be great if it was to the point of where he's like, okay, I'm going to get rid of this team, but at least to the point of like letting Walker do a lot more and take that burden on, because Walker gets not a free pass, but Walker gets a leash for Rockies fans, right? Like if you don't take him, you take him as Walker and not his last name, which won't be said. If you just take him as Walker, you're going to get 3 to 4 years of like, all right, it's the same as like a new coach in college football. You recruit your guys, you figure out what you're doing from the bottom up, and let's see what you have in 3 to 4 years. It's not a 1-year thing, not a 2-year thing. So we have to be patient with that. But I'm happy to be patient with something that's at least a little different in Walker.
Yeah, like you said, we're just open ears at this point, waiting to see. We got to talk about Chase Dollander because he's got his start coming up here, and we got to also talk about Kyle Freeland because Kyle Freeland had literally one of the best starts I've ever seen, and perhaps Coors Field has ever seen. And so we got to talk about both of those things after we pause for 5 seconds for this next break. All right, Chase Dollander has I would say the biggest start of his career coming up tonight. He's had a pretty rough go since being called back up. He's had 6 starts since returning from AAA. He's 0-3 with a 7.03 ERA. He's got 14 walks, 25 strikeouts. His home and road splits, which we talked about before, are definitely a thing. He's got a 3.64 ERA on the road through 9 starts and a barely under 10 ERA with 11 starts at Coors Field. He's going to be pitching in LA. Against the Dodgers so far, pitching just at Coors Field, he is 0-2 with a 9.64 ERA against the Dodgers, 2 career starts, but both of those games are at Coors Field. What type of Chase Dollander do we see tonight?
I think we see, and despite my Bet365 bet earlier, I think we see 5 innings, 3 earned runs, 6 strikeouts. I think he won't be disastrous. I think he gives the Rockies a shot to win this game. I mean, Glass now, who knows? They may not score a run the entire night.
But he's also been kind of hurt, so who knows?
Right. Hopefully, the first game back at Coors Field after a long road trip and vice versa, the first game out on the road after being at Coors Field for so long is usually tragic for the Rockies offense. So I'm worried about that. But yeah. I think Dollander, if I had to put his start in one word tonight, I think he'll be competitive.
Okay.
I think we're going to see the same things. I would take
competitive.
We're going to see him walk a few too many guys. We're going to see a frustrating leadoff walk, and leadoff walks come back to haunt you. We know that.
As they do.
But I think he'll be competitive tonight, and hopefully what I want to see him build on the next 3 to 4 starts that he gets the rest of the season, I just want to see the walk numbers down, but I also want to see less 3-ball counts, less 3 and 2. Like, I don't care. I'd rather you let a guy get a single or a double than go 11, 12 pitches and then walk the guy. Mm-hmm. Learn to play to your strength. Your ball moves a lot. It moves a lot more when you're on the road. Hence his, 3.6 ERA on the road. Let guys make a little bit more contact. Don't try to strike everybody out because it's just constant pitch count just skyrockets. Like, the one thing I don't want to see tonight is obviously you don't want to see him give up 10 runs. Like, I don't think that's going to happen and be out of the game very early. It could. But what I don't want to see is like him going into the 5th inning and he's only given up 2 runs, 3 runs maybe, and you look at his pitch count and it's like 85.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh shit, okay, well we've got maybe a few more outs here depending upon where the Dodgers are at in the order, and then we got to go to the bullpen. Like, I want him to be taken out after like 5 innings of good baseball, not a high pitch count, not a lot of walks, and not throwing 10, 11 pitches to guys. Just let him hit the ball a little bit. I'm sick of seeing him. He has a ton of waste pitches.
Yeah.
And the waste pitches, and they've talked about this on the broadcast as well, and Drew Goodman's alluded to it, like he throws non-competitive pitches too much.
Yeah.
Like your 0-2 slider doesn't need to be in the left-hander's batter's box. It needs to be maybe down, maybe 3 inches off the zone.
Yeah.
4 inches off the zone. That's still a good pitch. It's still a swing and a miss pitch, but be more competitive on your pitches when you're 0-2, 1-2. Don't get a guy to 0-2 and then it's all of a sudden 3-2 and you're battling. Like, that's what I don't want to see.
Yeah. I'm hoping it's competitive, man. I would kill for a competitive start right now. We saw nothing from that. From Tanner Gordon last night. That was unfortunate. Or yesterday, I should say.
Yeah, my take of Tanner Gordon wins the next 3 Rockies games was bad.
Not happening.
But it was good because that meant how good Kyle Freeland was on Friday night. Got us our one more win.
It did. McCade Brown the night before that.
Yikes.
Have we seen enough from McCade Brown to say, let's try someone new?
No, not yet.
Not yet?
I think, was that McCade Brown's first start at Coors Field?
It was his first start at Coors Field.
Yeah, so that's
it's a tough
different animal. Like, starting in Pittsburgh against the Pirates, he was good. I mean, going against Skeens, you have no shot, but he was decent enough in that game. The Pirates don't have a great offense. And then his second start was against the Astros.
Yeah, I think so.
Houston. He was okay. But like, first start at Coors Field, and as we see with Dollander.
It was brutal, though.
Yeah, that was bad.
It was bad. I only say that, and it's nothing against McCade Brown. I'm just hoping we see another starting pitcher this year. I want to just see one. Just give me.
Is it going to be Gabe Hughes? Is that the most likely?
That's probably my guess. I don't know if they end up doing it, just because usually they make those moves in the first week of September when you get those September call-ups for a starting pitcher. They don't tend to just call up starting pitchers randomly throughout the last part of September, just because you have to kind of work your way back up to that big league level with the minor league system kind of in full swing still. But we'll see. I would take another starting pitcher just to see, just give us something else to look at the end of this season. But
Carson Palmquist.
God, I know. There's not a lot of options. That's the thing, is there's not like a ton of options.
I'm looking at their AAA roster right now. I can't tell which guys are starters and which guys are not. But I mean,
you got Blaylock still there.
Feltner, he's 7-day injury. His season's over, unfortunately. Then you got Hughes, Palmquist, and Rolison have obviously been up, and then all the other guys they don't have reliever or starter. So there's really not a lot of options. Maybe go another guy from AA like they did with McCade Brown, but I would like to see. If we or two other I don't even care who it is.
Yeah. The Roansy Contreras thing was like, hey, cool, we get to see someone new. I mean, he didn't pitch great, but it was like someone new.
He gave up 4 runs in a third of an inning. Yeah. It was terrible. I looked at that box score and I was like, Jesus Christ, a great signing there.
To be fair, there were some bad drops, but also, yeah, it was not great. But, I was excited to see someone new. It was just something different. So we'll see. But I do think Dollander needs to have a good start. You're on the road. You've got a 3.6 ERA on the road. So if you're going to have something that you lean on, despite Warren Schaeffer hating the idea of home and road splits, that's a thing. It's totally a thing. So if Dollander can prove that he's consistently good on the road tonight against a very good Dodgers team, then I feel a lot better with him long term, just trying to have to figure out what happens at Coors Field. Like, if that's the issue, we can work with that. But got to have a good start tonight against the Dodgers. I'm hoping to see big things from him. Real quick, I just want to touch on this. I saw a couple comments about Chris Bryant earlier. We're not going to talk about Chris Bryant today. I do during this offseason, or probably right when the offseason starts, we're going to do a full show almost around the Chris Bryant situation. I'm actually going to talk to a contractual lawyer and have them kind of look at least the public contract of what Chris Bryant has and what the Rockies' options are, because there's layers to this and there's a lot of stuff that we don't know. And so I want to actually get some inside information on the Chris Bryant situation. So yes, although we're not going to address it today, for those of you guys asking, we are this offseason going to talk about Chris Bryant at least once to go through all the layers of this deal and what the Rockies' options are and what Chris Bryant's options are, insurance, all of that kind of stuff. So stay tuned for that when that comes around the corner. But we got to do our Circle of Trust because it's Monday, and we got to talk about our Circle of Trust. And before we get into Circle of Trust, we got to talk about your guy, the namesake of your jersey, Kyle Freeland, who had arguably top 5 historically best starts at Coors Field. I mean, you could say his no-hitter, almost no-hitter at Coors Field. Ubaldo Jimenez, a couple of his starts at Coors Field were up there. But anytime you throw a near complete game at Coors Field and you don't give up a single run, put him in the Hall of Fame away.
Gave up 1 hit, I believe.
Two hits.
2 hits. 1 hit in the first 7 innings, and was dominant. And we got a little tingle.
10 Ks.
We got a little tingle in the 4th inning.
Oh, yeah.
Still, we tweeted it out, and everybody started hating on us. So sorry.
But I didn't actually say it. I know people were like, "Come on, Christian, shut up." Yeah. I'm like, I didn't say it. I was just thinking.
No, and
just some thoughts.
I was definitely like, I was there with my wife and my kid who was loving it, and I was loving it. I was loving them actually, like not just like other team just rounding the bases.
I was thinking about the idea of you being there with your whole family and Sawyer getting to see the first ever no-hitter thrown at Coors Field. I was like getting emotional thinking of you getting to be there with your kid watching that.
It definitely crossed my mind a few times. And I even hit my wife and I was like, hey, see that second 0? I was like, she's like, oh. And then, but Ramon Lariano.
Ramon.
He's the one that broke up the no-hitter with the double, but his first at bat, I thought he hit a tank. Like that thing was, Brenton Doyle has made quite a few good plays in this last week that have been why he's such an elite center fielder. But yeah, Freeland was dealing. And I texted you, I think, at some point during the game because I was there watching it, obviously, a few Coors Lights, and it was my Friday night, and I was enjoying it, and my wife driving home. But I didn't realize he had 8 or 9 strikeouts at the time too. Like,
Oh, yeah.
He was not just like normal Kyle Freeland good game where he's getting like he was just flat out dominant
against a good team. I mean, a World Series contending team. He was averaging 2 strikeouts per inning for the first 4 innings of the game.
Yeah,
Incredible.
It was just mowing them down. And then, of course, we want to get to the decision to take him out? Do we want to talk about that?
Yeah, let's talk about it. Let's bring it all out there.
Pretty frustrated by that, and as most Rockies fans probably are. I think the pitch count was not even 88. Yeah,
Leave him in.
DT. Leave him in. Leave him in at 88. If it's one like shit. What's his Justin Verlander threw like 121 pitches
As
the other
a
day.
50-year-old, yeah. No, Yamamoto had 90 pitches in like the 7th inning in his no-hitter the other day, and they left him in all the way until he gave up that home run.
Yeah, and luckily it worked out. I didn't have to leave. Like I saw the double play. We watched it from behind home plate and then dipped out. But if he doesn't leave him in there and Victor Vodnik comes in and somehow gives up that lead, I might not have come to the show today, to be honest with you. Like
I know. I was thinking the same thing.
I was like, that leadoff walk and then the kind of fisted single by Tatis through the middle and first and second, nobody out. I'm like, here we go.
Here we go.
I was like, this is going to, like, if Freeland would have done that, I would have been like, all right,
Take him out.
Keep riding.
Yeah.
Or take him out at this point. But to bring somebody else in and allow the first 2 runners to get on base, I was like, this could not be more.
I think Schaeffer was pissed at himself for taking him out. And he should be. It was the wrong move. You don't see complete game shutouts ever at this level anymore. It's
especially
rare.
at Coors Field.
And at Coors Field. And it's one of those things you have to look at. And the way I looked at it, and we were talking about this in the press box when it was happening, Kyle Freeland will likely never have a complete game shutout now. That was probably his last chance at getting a complete game shutout. It's if you're not going to get a no-hitter, but you're still going to be a high-level pitcher, that's like you check that box as when Kyle Freeland retires and we put up his like greatest moments, you say, hey, he had Cy Young votes in 2017 or 2018.
Yeah, this is probably his second best game of his career.
He almost had a no-hitter. Yep, you type, and he had a complete game shutout against the Padres at Coors Field in 2025. Like that goes on that list. And now it's like, yeah, you had a shutout, but it was just 8 innings. You know what I mean? Like give him a chance. He had 88 pitches. If he had 120 pitches, then you understand, like, okay, fine. Like that conversations becomes a lot easier. He had 88 pitches. And I think the first answer from Warren Schaeffer, because Schaeffer tried to walk around it initially, and I was getting a little irritated about that because he was saying, we wanted to keep him in line for the win, which he would have been. I mean, who cares? He was still in line for the win. But then he kind of went and was like, yeah, maybe I do that differently. Like, I think I learned my lesson. Like, maybe I do it differently next time.
So now we know the Kyle Freeland key is, okay, next start, he goes out, pitches 8 pitches, gets himself kicked out of the game, then starts 2 days later, and he's fucking dialed.
Well, so that was the other thing we were thinking of. And Patrick Saunders, the Denver Post writer, he was the one who brought this up, that he was like, well, maybe because he just pitched 3 days ago for 8 pitches, but he did his full warm-up. He did it almost like a long bullpen game, because you throw a bullpen before the game starts, and then you go out and you pitch the entire game. Yes, he was taken out with 8 pitches, but Patrick Saunders' point was like, maybe the Rockies were counting some of his warm-up that day as going on top of his pitch count. So say, hey, he has 88 pitches, but he also had pretty much 2 big warm-ups in the last week that we have to account for. But then you're still trying to make something out of nothing, right?
Yeah,
like 88 pitches, let him get the full.
You can answer
game.
that question, right? Because didn't you mention something?
Yeah, so I did talk to Freeland, or we talked to Freeland after the game, and Freeland said as he was walking off the mound that Schaeffer was in the top step, and Schaeffer kind of gave him the eye, like, hey, you're done. And Freeland said he paused, and I'm assuming kind of gave him the like stink eye, being like, bro, really?
Full eye roll.
Like come on, let me go.
He has to change his diaper. It's like, oh.
But I will say this. I mean, Kyle Freeland is a fighter. He is a dog. He pushes hard, but he is very, very, very respectful of his coaches, his managers. He was that way with Bud Black he defended Bud Black when Bud Black pulled him out. If you guys remember, on opening day, what was it, 70 pitches, and he had the same kind of game, only a couple hits. I don't even remember if he gave up a run, and Bud Black pulled him out in that game. and the Rockies lost. And by the way, if you're watching at home on television, we are heading into overtime. So head over to thednvr.com to continue the conversation. Head to thednvr.com to continue our conversation as we are heading into overtime. But Bud Black we were asking him the same exact question, or the media was asking him the same question. Why did you pull him out? He had like 70 pitches. And we asked Freeland that too, and Freeland's defended Bud Black. And so, yes, I think he was pissed. I think Freeland wanted to get the complete game shut out. But some could say to a fault, will, listen to his manager and defend his manager. And I think that's what we saw. So,
yeah, he's the only guy that you would anticipate arguing with, like not being like, dude, not fucking take me out of this game. Right
I would have been pissed. I remember, even in high school, I had a couple times where I was like, where my coach would come out to take me out, and I'm like, standing there on the mound, like, come on, coach, like, let me get these next two outs. And coach is like, no, man, we got to take you out, and like being all pissed off about it. So I can't imagine the competitor that Freeland is, how he felt getting pulled out of that game.
And Schaeffer, I'm not saying Schaeffer's lucky, like he made
he's lucky. He's lucky.
But he is lucky that Victor Vodnik didn't give that up, because that press conference would have been a fucking
So that was the other thing we were thinking of, because I was like thinking to myself, yeah, I'm going to be pissed as a fan. Like, I'm going to be crashing out. I know you're going to be crashing out as a fan if Vodnik gives up this game. But also that press conference, that post-game presser is going to be miserable. And Schaeffer is going to be in all... And I'll say this. I mean, I'll throw Rockies media, myself included, under the bus here. We are a soft-ass media group. Like, we do not ask hard questions. If there's something specific, sure, we'll push it a little harder. But this isn't New York. This isn't Chicago. We are not some hard-headed journalist, like, making you gotcha journalism. Like this, it's the Rockies, right? We're pretty easygoing as media people. I think that would have been a very intense post-game from the media perspective of like grilling Schaeffer on why the hell he took him out.
Yeah, Thomas or Patrick would have been like, they
What
would
are you doing,
have
bro?
asked something to lead him down that road.
Yeah.
But it all worked out. They got a win. Freeland looked dominant. Let's get
It's fun.
more.
And maybe this is a conversation for Friday's show, but I wonder if that changes Freeland's. I mean, we all knew Freeland was going to be a part of next year's rotation unless something crazy happens, but maybe that gives us a little more confidence in him. I mean, he's looked pretty good in some of his starts this year, so it gives me more confidence that he can go out and still compete for you and be maybe a stopgap in 2026 for you, especially if you don't have anyone else to do that. So we got to finish the show with the Circle of Trust, though. And Circle of Trust, as we always do on Monday, I still have got Victor Vodnik in the Circle of Trust. He still held his own, got out of a couple jams. Victor Vodnik still in that Circle of Trust. You've got Brenton Doyle firmly in the Circle of Trust.
His August numbers were unbelievable.
Hunter Goodman, Circle of Trust. And I think he's been towing the line on the Circle of Trust, and I don't think that's fair to him. Jimmy Herget needs to be in the Circle of Trust. We talked about him as a guy who's been flying under the radar. Dude's been too good, too consistently all season long to not be like, when we do our full season recap and we do our final Circle of Trust of the season, he's gonna, like, he should be, barring some complete collapse in the month of September, he should be one of the few guys that we can say season long has been in that Circle of Trust, or should have been in that Circle of Trust.
Yeah, 100%. And then, you've got Goodman standing in the middle. Goodman's holding the pole.
Yeah.
And he's holding the tent of the
He's
Circle
holding the
of
flag
Trust.
up.
And
This is the Circle of Trust.
And he's been there. I don't know if anybody else has really made a jump to the Circle of Trust for me. Like, the bullpen will be good when they're down by 7, and then we need them once, and they're all of a sudden bad again.
Bernabel's kind of faded out a little bit. He's just been a little iffy.
Yeah, like everybody in their lineup right now is kind of like Mickey Moniak is still, he's been there firmly at some points. He's still kind of like edging around at Freeman, same way, like playing good baseball, but kind of what they've made us expect them to play good baseball, which is kind of crazy.
Yeah.
Between Moniak and Freeman.
I agree. And Freeman's been a little off these last few days. So we'll see. But we've got a decent Circle of Trust. I'm hoping that Circle of Trust can lead us to another win. By the way, once that next win comes up, so let's say the Rockies win tonight, we will be doing, one way or another, we will be doing a watch along when the Rockies have the chance to break the record for, or avoid the record, I should say, for most losses in a single season. So if the Rockies win tonight, man, we're going to be feeling good. We'll be back tomorrow doing a little watch along and I see Dinger's Burner says, how much longer till Yankiel gets some love for just getting hits here and there while getting inconsistent playing time? I agree. We talked about him a little bit on the last show or maybe 2 shows ago. I don't know if he's circle of trust yet, but he's been playing pretty good.
Just a crowded outfield, and nobody's like good enough to make them win games, but nobody's bad enough to not warrant at bats. It's like a weird situation.
Yeah. So yeah, I'll give Yank some love. Good stuff, Yankiel Fernandez. But we got to wrap things up here on the show. Follow us on socials if you haven't already, because that's where we will update you guys on if we're doing any watch-alongs after the Rockies win. But yeah, hopefully we get some good stuff out of Chase Dollander tonight. Thank you guys for watching. We'll see you guys next time. This has been the DNVR Rockies podcast presented by Bet365.
We all silly like the mayor.